Hey everybody, Quantum back here again, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at an update for Amethyst Sapphire in Azurite. It does seem like a lot of decks can start to splash, air quotes, Sapphire into their builds by simply adding in Tipo and Sail to the Azurite Sea as 2-cost ramp items. This package really helps solidify already strong inks such as Steel and Amethyst in order to facilitate a faster game plan. And so what we're going to take a look at here is a character heavy focus that basically aims to play out characters every single turn, and it has been proven to be pretty effective as this deck combination is popping up a little bit more online. So let's go ahead and break down the deck profile here. So to start off, we're on only 12 uninkables and 49 inkable cards. We play quite a tempo-oriented game, hoping to drop a 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, 5-drop along the way. Nothing on 6, but once we get to 7 and 8, hopefully, like I mentioned, on 2, we're able, or any other time later on, we're able to ramp at some point between 1 and 4, or 1 and 5, so that we can kind of just start dropping our bigger threats. And sometimes we can even ramp more than once. So the way that I've opted to build this list: 4 Chernobog's Followers, 4 Diablos. No Magic Brooms in this one, just because I think you get extra utility off of the Diablo now, more so than Broom, thanks to the Merlin Crab. So we're just opting for that. And, with Diablo, you're always just like, I don't even care. Turn it sideways. You banish it. Sure, I'll draw a card, right? Similar to what Kuzco did. 2 Cogsworth. I'm not sure how I feel about this just yet. It hasn't really come up for me at all. But you can drop this, give it Self Rush. You can drop it, give a Snake Rush, right? If you're on 3, play Snake, bounce back, replay. You already have Fox and Elsa for Rush characters. You're not really hoping to give anything like Genie Rush. I guess you could give Goat Rush. But aside from that, there's not too much else. So I'm not sure if this will be kept. But in theory, just having it as a utility option that can be bounced and reused is okay. And it just helps increase your critical mass of 1-drop so that it helps turn your 2-drop in Snake live. Because on 2, we only play 8 characters in the Snake and the Tipo. So again, seeing the Tipo is not bad on 2 because you're able to ramp into 4, which, we have some pretty strong 4-drops here, as we know, for Amethyst. And this is one of the key reasons why this ink pairing works so well. But also on 2, we're opting for Sail the Azurite Sea as well, another ramping option that replaces itself. I'm opting to play Hideaways in this build. Most of the time it's just going to be ink, but once you run into certain things like the Dwarf Mine, other Queen's Castles, even Hidden Coves and stuff, just being able to instantly deal with it, even though it ramps them, depending on where you're at in the game, it may not matter. But you just need to get that stuff out of there, because even the 7 Dwarf Mine can do a lot of damage to your deck, just because it can be a little bit tough to interact with. So just playing something to instantly out it is helpful. And then I'm also on 1 Lose the Way. Not sure, again, how I feel about this. Similar to the Cogsworth, it's nice to try to continue to lock down a board, since this deck is, again, a tempo-oriented deck. You're not really playing any other forms of removal. So just having the ability to force and exert and take out a character is very nice. It can really disrupt an opponent's game plan. It's only a 1-of, but the main things you take out with something like this, like Ursula, Deceiver of Alls, force a Huron, exert, so you can take it out. Yes, they've played it and drawn 2, but you can prevent them from questing and drawing 2. Those kinds of things. Of course, there's many other applications, but just some of the more critical cards. Forcing an exert on a Genie so you can take it out as well can be helpful. So just little things like that. On 3, we've got 4 Fox and 3 Crab. So you could go 4 Crab here because, like I was saying, since you're a character-focused deck, you really do rely on your characters trading or being thrown into the opponent's characters, and so Crab is obviously very good for that. Also, Crab helps you get a ton of utility off of things like the Diablo and the Tipo. And then, Madam Mim going to a 6-3 is also really relevant. Even Chernobog going to a 5-1, even though you forgo the draw if you challenge with it. So there's a lot of application for Crab, as well as, the Genie on Genie interaction. Like, if you play Genie, your opponent has a Genie, whoever's is exerted first. If you're able to play Crab, out it, because you boost your genie to throw it into the opponent's genie. It's very similar, like I was saying in other videos. Anytime I review genie, it's like it's Minnie Mouse meta, but it's with genies now, right? So just like we used to play crabs to boost up our Minnie Mouse to take out their Minnie Mouse, same kind of thing applies here to a certain extent. The obvious difference between that metagame in set 2 and this one is the card pool is much more diverse. Now we have a lot of ways, you know, like action-wise, to remove ready threats, but this deck still kind of focusing on that character interaction, really relies on, again, things being exerted, and that's why stuff like Lose the Way can be helpful. On the 4-drop slots, pretty standard again here, 4 Genie, 4 Goat, and 3 Crab. This seems to be the preferred Amethyst package. We're seeing that being solidified now into the meta decks. Anything that's playing Amethyst, it's very hard to disrupt this 4-drop package of 11 cards. Some people might be on 4 Rabbits and 4 Genie. That might be a little overkill, but if you've played Amethyst, you know, once you see 1 rabbit and you know you can bounce it, you're like, oh, it feels so good, especially if you're not like falling way behind in the match in terms of lore. You're just like, I have control of the game. I'm going to draw 4 cards off of 1 rabbit bounce, right? Because you play rabbit, if you're able to bounce it, that's 2 draws, and then you just know I'm going to replay it, and then when it gets removed, I'm going to draw again. So that's at least 4 draws for every 1 bounce, right? And then if you get it bounced again, that's another 2 draws from there. So, you know, the rabbit advantage is still something that's being utilized. I know people were experimenting with like 4 Genie, 1 rabbit, no rabbit, but rabbit's still showing that it has some place in the meta. Honestly, Genie, a lot of people are teching against it. Every video that I go over, we talk about how we tech against Genie. The issue is it's still such a good card that you still play it even though you know people have the outs to it. Like, if you play it and then it gets removed, like, yes, you lose a little bit of tempo because you lost a card that you played for ink, but you still replaced itself. So they wasted time and tempo in order to remove your Genie too, right? It just matters of who has control of the match. If they already have an established board and you're playing catch up, maybe playing Genie at that point in time isn't the best option. So, you know, 4 of it, still warranted, still a good card. Again, it is your main aggressive threat and makes decks like this more viable now in the metagame. So I think you still play 4. And then 4 Goat is no need to explain. I talked about this in the Emerald Amethyst build. So again, there are a lot of similarities between this build and the Emerald version, where I said Bell is a great tech option because, again, that Genie on Genie interaction, as well as many other interactions, obviously, but being able to throw your Genie into their Genie, then play a Bell to move the damage on your Genie to their Genie to out their Genie, then your Genie, a lot of Genie words, is back up to full health, is very relevant. The Bell tech is being used here and there. It's definitely worth taking a look at. Also, because like I just mentioned, you need to be challenging with this deck. You need to throw your Fox into stuff, your Goat into stuff, this Elsa, you know, this Elsa, this Hades. You're throwing your characters into your opponent's stuff. So just being able to move that damage also is just beneficial regardless. So 2 of Bell on the 5 is pretty good. And then one of your key cards, similar to why we put in Lose the Way, Elsa, the 5th Spirit. So this is a mandatory 4 of. You know, this card got a lot of hype when it was first revealed. In my opinion, I thought it was a fantastic card. I still think it is. Rush and Evasive, instantly take out Diablos that are not on Coves. You know, it just has a ton of utility in a deck like this because, again, your main form of control, board control removal is depending on the opponent's cards being exerted. So a card like this can really help facilitate your game plan of controlling the board. And then similar reasoning to why you include Bell, and you may think it's a little counterproductive, but between 3 Baymax and 2 Bell, you can have a choice, you know, depending on which one you have. Do I need to move damage to remove threats, or do I just, you know, push for lore by healing with Baymax? Because again, imagine, you know, you have Elsa, you throw it into something, you take 2 or 3 damage, then you, like, you know, Baymax, heal it up, use it again, right? Like, and it has evasive, so it's likely protected. So pretty good overall. I like Baymax in this deck more than, again, Cogsworth now. I don't want to say Cogsworth is going to be power crept by Baymax, but it just seems to me like Cogsworth coming down, giving resist +1, still very good. Having ward, still good, but it still gets wiped by Big Sisu. Now, Baymax can be targeted by Brawl, whereas Cogsworth cannot. But the ability to heal and gain lore instantly is just, like, in my opinion, really good, especially for a deck like this that will likely have characters on board with damage on them since you play rush characters. But also for the simple fact that if they don't have the direct out, this card is a huge threat. Like, again, the more I test with this card, like, if it survives, it's like 6 lore, because you play, you heal 2, you then use a character that would normally only quest for like 1 to take out another threat, and then you heal it up, so you actually gain 6 lore in an interaction plus take out a threat instead of just gaining 5 lore. Like, do you see the difference there, right? Like, if you had a Cogsworth up, like, yeah, you get the resist, and he has ward, but it's like, you know, I quest with Cogsworth, I quest with the character I was questing for 1 with, that's only 3 lore. Baymax can literally represent double the amount of lore, plus take out a threat, right? Because you're putting damage, re-putting damage on a character. So again, it's like niche applications, you know, scenarios and differences, but take that into consideration when you're choosing between, you know, my 5 drops. Cogsworth is still very good in my opinion, but I like Baymax personally. And then, like I mentioned, because you're playing some ramp options and because you have Tipo, which is kind of like the new Fishbone, right? You're able to play a couple of higher end cards, you know, first chapter bangers for Sapphire and for Amethyst. The Hades, just being able to instantly drop this and out a threat can literally win you the game when you're down to the wire and the game is very tight. You having the exact removal piece for an opponent's critical card can be the make or break for winning you the game. And with Amethyst decks, sometimes all you need is to lock down a board. You know, your opponent has game on board, you drop this Elsa, you tap down 2 of the big questing threats, and you're just like, yeah, now I have game on board. They can't ready their characters. If they can't deal with my board now, I win the game next turn. They can't use those characters to challenge, they can't quest with them, etc. So you're doing pretty good. The Elsa, I do think, is a really good card, and what's nice about it in this deck is you have a lot of opportunities to just raw play this out, since you can ramp once or twice along the curve, or use the shift, right? Whereas in like Ruby Amethyst, you know, you don't really want to play this because it's a little awkward to play. Like, you do have to wait until turn 8, and if you don't have the shift, then you're raw playing it and it's slow. Whereas with this one, you can get it out on turn 6, on turn 7 with the shift. So it's a little bit more versatile in my opinion, and you can always ink it with the Tipo if it's in your opening hand. Whereas with Ruby Amethyst, if this is in your opening hand, or Amber Amethyst, like, the card is dead for like 8 turns because you can't ramp, you can't ink it. It's just like, I hope my opponent plays this card so I can discard it, I guess. You know, I don't know. Obviously, you never hope to play against this card. What a bad mechanic for a game. But anyways, moving on. We've already covered our actions here, and then the songs for Friends on the other side. Pretty standard, but yeah, a very tempo-oriented list, and it just, again, puts characters on boards, quests. You gain back tempo when you're on the draw by using things like Lose the Way, like the Elsa, like the Bell to transition damage, move things around, force exertions, take control of the board, and then hopefully lock things up by keeping your stuff healthy, keeping that board advantage with Baymax, questing out, putting a lot of pressure on your opponent with things like Genie, having the constant card replacement, Chernobog, Diablo, Merlin Rabbit, Genie, right? And then endgame threats, Hades, Elsa. So a very interesting deck that is having some success. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, how you would build it, if you agree with this build, if there's anything you'd like to change, and if you've tested this, do you like it? What matchups do you find difficult? What matchups do you find are good? But yeah, this is another deck, again, a tempo-oriented deck similar to Mufasa, where it's going to be much stronger on the play, and you have to find ways to claw back advantage on the draw. And again, like, we have a couple of ways towards, you know, the mid game to do that. So that's gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. Let me know what you think of this deck profile. Thank you again for watching. If you made it this far, Quantum is out.